Right. I'd like my 2 cents on this to focus on the last highlighted sentence or two in this paragraph at the end. If the recommendations are perfectly implemented, the changes will represent significant progress, but I will still have to object. I believe the value to us argument warrants a total ban on chimpanzee research. As profoundly as we value human health, clearly we value much else besides: art, nature, historical monuments, endangered species. I believe it is inconsistent with our values to keep using our closest non-human relatives as models of human disease. So I'd like to say a word about this. There's something refreshing about this whole article, even if you find yourself disagreeing with it here or there. And what might that be? Here's a suggestion. It's the fact that Kazez is aware of a family of different types of arguments and a family of different types of conclusions. And yet, she ends up saying that the very weakest member of the family of arguments is strong enough to prove that the very strongest member of the family of conclusions. Okay? Now, let's review the 3 types of arguments she surveyed, from the weakest, that is, in her view, the most conservative and cautious, to the strongest, that is, the most progressive and demanding, would be first, the value to us argument; second, the argument from our somewhat utilitarian obligations; and third, the argument from strong animal rights. Now, the types of conclusions from weakest to strongest are: first, no regulation at all on chimp research. That's not what she's arguing for. Second, partial regulation on chimp research. You could see that as a target for this article. But third, a total ban on chimp research. So Kazez claims that the value to us argument by itself supports a total ban on chimp research. Interestingly, Kazez explains throughout the article that she believes in both the value to us argument and the argument from our obligations. She seems to draw back from the argument from strong animal rights. Perhaps she believes it, but finds it too controversial to secure wide agreement. There are many ways of having partial regulation of chimp research. Arguably, the case that frames this chapter is merely moving from one fairly high standard of regulation towards another fairly high standard of regulation, but short of a total ban. Kazez lays her cards on the table at the end. She supports a total ban. And most interesting of all, perhaps, she claims that even the weakest of her 3 arguments is strong enough to deliver that total ban.